Hey everybody, this is Spat from SpatCave Studios here today to show you how to build a motion tracker kit. I've been offering these kits in my store for many years, and I've been meaning to do a video to show how to put it all together, show that it's not as complicated as some people might think. Here's the completed kit that I'm going to show you how to build today. It's made of multiple different parts, resin cast pieces, cast in black resin. You can also replace many of these parts with the original camera parts or drill bits that were used in the film. So each piece here has been sanded and given a little wash to get rid of any mold release to get them all ready. It's many pieces, little parts and bits. There's a lot of little extra pieces, the famous pump widget, little extra camera parts, the little knob, I don't even know what those pieces are called. I have them listed on there. You also get the lens, which goes for the slide viewer, and the little connector piece for the slide viewer to attach. These are the tools you'll need: x-acto knives, snips, some glues. I use Gorilla Glue, super glue. It's fantastic. If you want to use the sling attachments are very important. These little pieces here I use to connect the hoses. You'll see that in a little bit. Various screws. I use these little pins to attach parts to. We'll get to that later. M3 and M4 hex head screws to replace the molded on ones if you want to go for that really cool look. Some hoses, other screws, the little plug connector, sideways connector for the thing, mesh screen if you want to clean up that top, a bunch of two different size cables. I think that's 3/16 and less than 3/16. I forget the things. I'll add them in somewhere else. Dremel and a drill, definitely going to be needed for a little bit of sanding and drilling for the little holes you're going to do. And first we're going to start drilling some holes in here. This piece has the pieces, the place for the holes to go already built in. So I'm just kind of line those up where they go. I'm going to use the drill to kind of mark where the hole will go. And then make sure that it's all the way through, and then go for the other one. Be careful, don't put your finger on the other side of the hole, which I did in this video, and literally drilled right into my finger. So use an X-acto to score up where it's going to glue so that the glue has a better connection point, can attach and hold stronger. Again, Gorilla Super Glue, I like it, it's fantastic. It's not super thin, but it's not super thick either, and it attaches really well. Screw gun. I mean, I'm going to be talking through this whole thing. It's a 25-minute video, so I'm going to be rambling for a bit, but yeah, you'll get used to it. All right, get the little screws. Make sure it's on there nice and snug. Now, these are the molded on screws. They're fine. You don't need to drill them out and get rid of them, but I'm doing it just to show you how, and then use the snips to clip them out. I like to drill through them first, so you actually have the center, rather than clipping them first and then trying to find the center. Use the molded in piece to be your center line to get those out. And then use an X-acto knife to kind of clean them up to get them nice and smooth. Same thing on all these different pieces. These will be the M3 screws that we use on this. The main body gets the M4s. And then clip them off. And I clip off the center and put a 3/16 hole in the center for the big hose to go into. All right, for the body, there's that little screw. The knob will go in there, and I run the little screw through there. I don't even glue this piece on. I just kind of usually just screw it into place, and then it can turn and twist if someone wants to play with it as an adjustment. Same for this bottom one. It's a screw that goes into the bottom. And a lot of times I'm going to leave that off until the very, very end, because this is a great way to balance the piece, is to put it down on the bottom, and with that little screw in place, it doesn't really work. Same thing with this little guy. I used to just glue that on, but I found that it could get knocked off. I try and make sure that everything is screwed or pinned in place. So if you drop it, in theory, nothing should pop off. But if you glue it on, you might have a little problem. So again, same thing. Gluing this guy on. Then we're going to drill it in from the bottom. You can do that last or do it now. It's up to you. Probably should have waited till later to align everything, but there we go. Now, using a zip kicker as quickly cure the super glue. All right, clean off any molded on resin on that little port there, using the 1/4-inch plugs. Now, because part of that plug is molded into the body of the slide viewer, you might need to adjust the little connector to make sure that it grabs and holds on tightly. There you go. Yeah, drill your nice big hole there. I use a guide hole. And that's going to be big enough, but you're going to need to screw out a little bit of that body. There you go, with the Dremel. Make sure you're wearing protective gear. Don't Dremel or cut resin without ventilation, wearing a mask. It's bad stuff. Run that through, put the little screw on in the washer, tighten it up. And this is a one-day build, by the way, so just showing you that you can do an entire motion tracker kit from scratch in one day if you really wanted to, or you can spread it out over time. So scoring again on all the parts that are going to be glued all the way around, just to make sure it has a little tooth to bite into when the glue gets in there. And this gets aligned on the 4 cardinal points, north, south, east, west. And a little zip kicker to cure it instantly. My shaky camera work. And then we're going to drill into the body so that the M3 screws will go all the way in. And that's also going to hold that on a little tighter. And then I think we're going inside the body to connect that top piece. I have a list of names for all these parts, but I forget them. It's been, I don't know how many years since I've been doing these kits. I forget all the names of the parts. I have them listed on the website somewhere. So again, screws in there just to make sure that it's not going anywhere. I'm not going to have to worry about it popping off by accident as you're wandering around. And now we've got all these little pieces. These are the 4 main pieces that get pinned on. This one here, I give a little sanding down the center to let it fit that curved space a little better. So I'm using small drill bits. My little pinning technique is using the pop rivets. I go through so many pop rivets in every piece of armor or every costume that I make that I end up with tons and tons of the cast off little excess pop rivet shaft. So when it comes to pinning or other things that need pins, I have so many of these left over. I just save them now. They're the little body of the pop rivet. Just give it a little cut in half, and they make great little pins. And I'll use them for connecting anything that needs to be connected. It's a great little piece that then I don't have to go out and buy something for. And we just do a little super glue. Pop the little pins in place. Ta-da! There you go. All pinned in place. I missed one. There we go. Now, to align them, I figure out where I'm going to put them, and then I kind of rub them back and forth to scratch the resin, and that'll show me where to drill, and then I'll just pop a little drill right there. And if it doesn't align perfectly, maybe I'll widen one of them a little bit. But in this case, I did not. Scratch everything up. A little glue. Drop that on there, hold it in place. Same for the pump widget. Again, just align it where you want it. Give it a little scratchy scratch. And then pop your holes. And then if you put it on and it doesn't feel like it aligns right, you can always widen one of the holes a little bit. The glue will help hold it there. There we go. Get that perfect. Scratchy scratch. Scratchity scratch. Glue, glue, glue. And pop it in place. And a little zip kicker, and it's all good. And then these side ones I'm going to mark, and I'm going to drill the holes for, but I'm not going to actually connect them because they're going to be painted black while the main body gets painted green. So rather than having to do a crazy masking, I'm just going to glue them on after everything's painted. So you'll see they're going to get checked, but then they're going to get set aside. All right, I think I missed a video somewhere. So this is where the big hole goes for the wire that's going to lead to the slide viewer. What I'm going to use is a piece of 3/16 tubing cut down to a little size and just put a little glue and kind of knock it in place. Hammer it with something that's probably not a hammer. And that just gives the wire a little something to plug into. Same thing on the slide viewer. It looks cool. And it's all the parts that are going to be painted black compared to all the parts that are going to be painted green. And kind of separate them. And then we'll get on to painting. All right, so first off, starting with a primer coat of black, just to get everything the same base color. Remember to paint in a well-ventilated area. Wear a mask, wear a respirator. Don't spray it in your eyes. Don't huff. Just simple things. Once that's dry, I use a matte clear coat, mostly right here on the top because the base of the main body stays black, while everything else is going to get painted green for that main body. And here's my greens. I use a forest green, again, as a primer. This is going to be a flat primer, not the final color, just to give it a little bit more body for the base paint to hold, and a little something in case it gets beat up, it'll chip, and there'll be a little green primer underneath. It looks cool. Spray, 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 spray. And for that piece now, I'm going to mask it off, because this way I'm going to be playing with this piece a lot and moving it around, and it's going to sit on that base. Without it, it's going to be weird. Okay, so I'm using an olive drab, which looks brown, but when you paint it, it's really green. You can also paint these brown bess, which is probably the color that we painted on set, but under the certain lighting, it looked green. So I go for the olive drab military green look, and then a matte finish to seal it all in, which will also darken it a little bit and dull the color, and I think it looks really cool. We spray, spray, spray. And once that's all dry, mixing up a little black paint, and that's going to be for my little details. I like to cover these up. The parts where the decals are going to go later, I like to put a base coat of paint underneath it. I think it helps, just to line it up. And that little button and the screen. If you make a mess, it's not really going to make that much of a difference. My shaky camera work. Wee shaky camera. All right, get that screen nice and black. And then over here, this is where the mesh would go. And again, the mesh is optional. I got that as a gift from a buddy of mine in Australia who found it and sent it over. I don't really have much left, but if I can find some more, that'd be great. I don't know what the difference is between different kinds of mesh, but the stuff that he sent me looks really cool. So again, anything that's going to be under a decal, I'm going to paint up and make sure it's black as a base. And again, you don't have to be super neat with this, because it's going to be, in theory, you're going to do some weathering and it'll be a little beat up. And now we're putting in the little M3 screws into the face. And these are hex head. I gotta remember there's a name for them. Hex head. They're not flat heads. Button heads. I don't know screws. All right, there we go. Now that's going to glue onto the side. Again, score, score, score. Score, score, score. And glue, glue, glue. And let that sit. And we work on the other side, or work on something else here. What are we doing now? The little plug. All right, so I'm going to drill out the hole, of course, off camera, so you can't see it, for where the plug will go in. Sorry. And get that all set and test it, make sure that fits. And then a little smaller screw going in here for the body of there. I think it slips there, and I kind of cracked the piece, but it's all right. No one's going to know. I'm using my finger as a guide. Don't ever do that. It's very dangerous. But my skin can take it. And then glue those in. There we go. Very cool looking little bit. And now once that other side is dry, we test this guy out, make sure it's the right way up. There we go. Score, score, score. And glue, glue, glue. And then that guy sits up there. And now we wait. All right, so little screws. So on the top there, I found these nice little black screws that go in there. I guess in theory, I could have gotten longer screws and just screwed it in from the top like that, which probably would be smarter, but I haven't found the right screws. That looked cool like that, so this is what I get. Boom. All right. And the little screw can go in there. Again, just screws in. What's next? Mesh. There we go. So cut a little piece of this mesh using some snips. Be careful, that metal is sharp. I'm going to bend it to shape. This is going to be a while. I should have sped this part up longer, more faster, because it's just me slowly but surely bending a piece of metal to the right shape. And cutting off the little excess that's going to go on top. I did see, I think Michael's or Hobby Lobby or someplace had a kind of mesh that looked very similar to this. It was much thinner. I think it was used for like crafting. But at some point, I need to go pick that up and check it out and see if it'll work for this as well. Because it was really cheap, and I know this stuff was much harder to find. There we go. Get the right shape, and then get it out of there. There we go. I guess that's good. And then this one here, in there. All right. E6000, really nice glue. Very stinky. Use ventilation for that as well. Get that in there. It just adds a great feature to the piece. It just really looks good with that on there. Now for the big wire that's going to go through there. A 3/16 hole. But again, you can, when you get your own screw, your own wires, you can do it your size. This one is the handle. That's for where it connects back in. Very shaky. So this is going on there. I'm going to glue and screw this in. Well, first we're going to mark where the holes are going to be for the rest of it. So where it's going to connect into the other part of the body. And then screw these guys in. Or testing them. I think I pulled them back out at some point, as I recall in the video, because I did want to put some glue down. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, I like to glue it. If you're doing electronics and you want to wire this up because it is hollow, you can leave that with just screws so that you can open it later to get access to batteries or whatever you need. But for me, I was sealing it up, so it gets sealed up with my shaky camera. There we go. Now checking this guy here, make sure that aligns. I think I had to adjust the top piece because it was a little too tight, but once we adjusted it, it worked. Glue, glue, glue. This will get screws in the bottom, but not in the top. So that's only held in on the top by friction and the glue. So, and then here we go. 2 big screws in the bottom. These are, again, whoa, very shaky camera. I gotta figure out a better way to put the camera when I do these things. So these are either M4s or M5 screws. I forget what I used for the handle, but I know there were big ones. But once that's glued and screwed in, it gives you a really nice hold. You'll see it's a very solid prop when it's done like this. And I shake the camera some more. There you go. All right, next. What are we doing next? Oh, the top piece, that little guy. And for this one here, like I said, I like to screw it in. So what I do is I drill the holes for the screw and then widen them so that I'll be able to kind of put a flathead screw in there that'll go flush. Because this way I can put the decal over it and you won't even notice that there were screws underneath it. Very, very little tiny screws. But again, something to hold it because I want everything screwed on. I don't want anything to risk popping off, if the glue ever decides it doesn't want to hold anymore. So itty bitty countersunk flathead screws. Should be enough. I don't think anybody's going to ever do anything that requires that to be the thing. So the kit comes with instructions of where to get these little decals. You print them out yourself. It's on the website, the link to it in my little store. I cut these out. I think I did these on photo paper. I'd like to run a Sharpie around the edge just to get rid of that little white edge coming through, just in case. And then an X-acto knife to cut these out. I should have used a much sharper one. This was not good. And I think I did these on photo paper, but you don't have to. It depends on your thing. The only problem with photo paper is if you don't let it dry long enough, your fingerprints will get all over it. And what I'm using is Liquitex matte varnish. I discovered this stuff and it's fantastic for doing these decals. I just do it on here, and I can make a mess. I don't really care about over spraying because I'm going to matte everything anyway. So there we go. Make sure you press and not rub, or you'll rub off some of the ink from the decal. And then a little coat on top, and it's like it lived there forever. And a little top guy. And then once we clear coat, once this dries, I'm going to clear coat everything again anyway, and it's going to all blend in flat, and it's going to look beautiful. And then the little screen, making a mess. All right, and this guy here, I think this is the last one. And now the big hose, again, glued in through the front. There's the glue off screen. Oh, there we go. This is a little silicone, it's a 3/16 silicone tube that I found a whole big length of. That was awesome. That works really well for this. Because it's flexible enough that, you know, if you bump into it, it's not going to do anything. It's not going to bend. It's not going to hold a shape. So you'll always have that kind of flexible piece on the front. And then a thinner piece of wire that's going to go inside that and plug in through that little piece right there. And you just got to cut it down to the size that you need. Thread it through. I think I decided that this was too long. Yeah, it didn't quite align right, so I trim off a little bit of the end there. Yeah. And plug it back in. There we go. And now drilling. This is optional. Again, the kit doesn't come with this, but if you wanted to use a sling for it, you can use these mounts. These are standard rifle sling mounts. They're getting harder to find the good ones that I like. These are different ones. They're good, but there's other ones that are all one piece that I like better, but I can't find them anymore. A lot of this stuff just isn't made anymore. But these ones are really good. They're nice. They're flexible. They bend in all different directions, so it's cool. Twist them in. There we go. And the lens. The lens is beautiful because we cast them here, and they'll give you kind of it almost makes the screen look like it's lit up, even when it's not. The way it reflects and refracts the light. It's really, really nice. So I glue it in. I tape it in with a little piece of Scotch tape. I'm very lazy. This way you can swap it out. I include both, like this one is the, you know, oh no, we're screwed screen. There's also a blank screen with no enemies on it, and I try and include both of them. So inside, let me see, I'll change my mind in a second, and drop the other one in. That's the nothing's wrong thing. So if you ever wanted to change it, you can just open up this thing. It's only held in with friction. Pop the slide viewer open, and then change the screens if you want it. And then that plugs in on the side, and it plugs out, and then the little hose goes in there. Straight in there. I don't glue these in because for shipping or transporting or whatever you want to do when you're going to a convention, you might want to unplug that and put it separate because otherwise it does take up a lot of space when the whole thing is one piece like that. Now for weathering, a little black, Tamiya flat black mixed with some thinner. And mix. My dirty workbench. And we're going to airbrush this on. If you don't have an airbrush, you could probably do this by stippling it on as well. But I'm just going to go around the edges, any corners, any place that looks like grime was going to be, or any place that looks like it'd be worked a lot, like all the little screw holes, any place, like any edge, I'm just going to hit with a little bit of this black wash. It's very thin. It's very simple. It's just a subtle look to make it look like it's a little grungy. It's used military equipment, but not making it look like it's been beaten to hell. If you want to look like beaten to hell, you can always make beaten to hell. You can always go over this with, silver paint, dry brush some scratches, and make it look like the paint's chipping away. But I happen to know that all the parts used in this were plastic, so they're really, even on the original, I don't think anything that chipped away would have shown metal underneath in real life. So. There we go. Try and get everywhere. Again, it just gives you a little, whoops, paint gets stuck to it. If you wanted to go for a ride, it just gives you a subtle, this has been used. This is not brand new look. All right. And now, take off the tape on the bottom. You forgot there was tape there, didn't you? All right. See, that's what happens. Because otherwise, this paint would have been scratched to hell by the way that I was, just throwing this thing around as I was building it. I'm screwing the bottom thing. Again, for displaying, you might want to unscrew that because it's very hard to make this thing stand up straight. with that on there. Connect. Optional sling also available in the store. And there it is. There's your motion tracker kit built in one day. It's a fantastic kit. It's not that expensive. You can go to the store, pick one up, get an optional sling. I also offer them fully assembled for an extra fee. I'll actually do the build and paint for you and weather it to your specifications. There we go. That's the motion tracker kit. You can check it out over at the store at SpatCave.com. You can also check it out on Etsy at etsy.com/SpatCave. And there you